A very happy Friday to you. I'm King 5 meteorologist Ashley Ruiz with a look at your sunny forecast. It's going to be a beautiful weekend, but we are really going to heat up. The hottest temperatures we've had so far this season, definitely so far in June. We've had highs in the 80s here and there, but this weekend we're talking highs in the upper 80s and lower and mid 90s, especially Sunday and into Monday. Not just that, but with drier conditions, low relative humidity and dry fuels, we have an elevated fire weather risk, and really going to be Sunday and into Monday. But then we're trending cooler by the middle half of next week. So the weather team issued a pair of first alert weather days Sunday and Monday because of the hot days, very warm nights, and that elevated fire risk. And so this is for much of western Washington. The immediate coast, so the Pacific beaches, will be a little cooler, so not included in this heat advisory, but you see pretty much all of western Washington is included in this. 11 a.m. Sunday through 5 a.m. Tuesday, and the reason why it continues through Tuesday morning, it's because Tuesday morning will likely experience our warmest low temperatures, so lower 60s for many spots. And so that means with days in the 80s and 90s, our mornings, our nights being super warm in the 50s and 60s, and our days are so long, there's just not a lot of time for us to cool off before we heat up again. Let's talk about the big picture and why it's going to be so hot. We have this ridge of high pressure building, and that's keeping one system to the northeast, well to the north of us. And then you see this low spinning over the open Pacific. This ridge is going to block that from moving in. So here's that ridge building, this high pressure just building over the Pacific. It's going to expand and then amplify, bringing us all of this high heat into Saturday. It's going to continue to amplify and build and just sit over the area at least until Monday. But by Monday, it starts to weaken, and Tuesday, you see how it starts to move more to the west and it almost flattens over our area. It's going to eventually weaken and just release its hold enough for us to get the return of onshore winds. So we'll get that natural AC back. But at the surface, because this is in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we're going to have something that's called a thermal trough. And so essentially what that is, it's a bubble of very warm air, hot air, and it's going to move up the west coast into western Washington, and it will be near the coast at first, moving inland, and then eventually east of the Cascades as we head into Tuesday. And that leads to offshore winds. And so that means we're going to have very low humidity. That's going to allow our temperatures to soar. And so that's why, and then you add on the fact that we'll have those dry fuels, we'll have that elevated fire weather risk. I will say Sunday, we'll all hit our peak temperature, or all of us from the coast all the way to the Cascades. But here in the Puget Sound region, we may not hit our high or the hottest temperatures until Monday. And I'll show you coming up. But we've issued those first alert weather days, Sunday and Monday. And then Tuesday, that's when we'll really start to cool down pretty much everyone from the coast all the way to the Cascades. But then we'll all feel the cooler conditions and our natural AC again Wednesday and Thursday. So this is not going to be a heat dome situation where we're just trapped under this relentless ridge. That's not going to be the case, thankfully. And that makes more sense considering we're still in June. But regardless, it's still going to be well above normal. Let's take you outside where we have mostly blue sky. Up in Port Angeles, we've had some marine fog that will mix out, that will lift. We're going to have northerly winds today. And so any of this fog or haze will mix out, and we'll have a really beautiful day in store for us. North and northwesterly winds generally between 5 and 10 miles per hour, with highs in the 60s closer to the water, and then low and mid 70s for interior areas. Tonight, I would definitely open your windows to allow some of that natural AC to move in. Once again, cool your houses down before we heat things up. But temperatures will still be in the 50s, but seasonal. So tomorrow morning, we'll wake up 50s and then quickly warming up under sunny skies. Temperatures around lunchtime already in the mid 70s, topping out in the lower 80s, low and mid 80s for Puget Sound, Quileute, Hoquiam, 82 degrees. If you're headed up to the mountains to hike or camp, just prepare for some hot summer-like conditions instead of winter conditions like what we had just last weekend when we had snow up at Paradise and Snoqualmie Pass higher elevations, but that's not the case anymore. Then we get to Sunday, and again, this thermal trough is now starting to move inland, so we're going to see the temperatures really soar into Sunday. So you see widespread 80s and then some 90s out there as well. Eastern Washington, low and mid 90s. You see at the coast, Quileute, Hoquiam, in the low and mid 80s. But watch what happens into Monday, because we are going to have that thermal trough move to the east now, and that will allow winds to shift from east to west, now west to east. So we'll get that push of onshore winds again. So Monday, the coast will start to cool down. But as we well know, when we're in this kind of situation where we get that marine air again, it takes a little bit of time for it to move to interior areas. So we'll likely have 80s and 90s for Puget Sound away from the water, so interior areas, and then potentially up north, depending on how quickly the onshore winds return, maybe upper 70s and lower 80s there. And then we get to Tuesday, and then we all start to cool things down. If you're headed to our first World Cup match on Monday, very exciting, or any of the watch parties over the weekend, just again know that it's going to be hot wherever you go. But this is Monday's forecast. So Belgium versus Egypt. At noon on Monday, temperatures in the upper 70s, lower 80s, mostly sunny, but we're also going to have some high clouds moving in, so that could keep things from heating up all too much, as well as being so close to Elliott Bay. That might help in our favor, keeping things a little cooler. I also mentioned we'll have that elevated fire weather risk. It starts Saturday. We'll get that drier air just settling in. We'll likely get a little bit of an offshore push in terms of the winds and the flow. So that will cause our relative humidity values to drop into that 20-30% range. But then we get to Sunday when we get that stronger push of offshore winds. So we'll likely have relative humidity values down to maybe the teens and 20s, potentially even lower on Monday. So that will lead to some of those higher fire weather concerns. Additionally, and of course, they are not out when I want to show you. Actually, yes, our little friends at the Seattle Aquarium, the sea otters, you see, enjoying a nice, relaxing morning on the water, in the water, with his little toy. Look at him go. A lot of us may want to be like the otters this weekend, cooling off because of how hot it's going to be. We can't stress it enough that cold water shock is a huge problem this time of year. Yeah, it's hot outside, but it's been cooler. And then we've had some rain. So our water temperatures are still on the cold side. That could lead to some issues. Lake Washington, Lake Sammamish, Lake Union, still water temperatures in the 60s. Our rivers in the 40s and 50s. So they're moving quickly. They're still really cold. So if you're tubing or anything like that, also know with our previous river flooding, likely a lot of debris in those waters. So that could be very, very dangerous. So once again, it is going to be a first alert weather weekend, Sunday and into Monday. Highs in the 80s and 90s then, but today a little above normal. Normal this time of year is about 70. So even once we start to cool things down, we're still above normal, but definitely not going to be in this very prolonged heat wave, but temperatures will be above normal. Now beyond the 7-day forecast, next Friday, so our next home match, looks as though temperatures may be on the comfortable side, and then looks as though we'll stay into the 70s. So, of course, this could change, but you can count on us to keep you posted all weekend long. Remember, you can always find the latest forecast details, a deeper dive into the forecast on King 5 Plus, king5.com, and our free King 5 app.